Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge in the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the 2022 John Deere Classic. This is my preview show with a focus on the betting side. And first and foremost, thank you for stopping by. I'm going to break down the course for you. We're going to do all the custom model analysis that you love. And I'm going to recap, of course, the Travelers. And with that said, and let's go talk a little golf. It was a great tournament. I enjoyed the Travelers, even though from a DFS side, it was not good at all. And I don't think from probably any analyst out there that they did so hot picking the top 10 finishers. But I had a couple highlights. We'll talk a little bit about that. But real quick, let's talk about what transpired. So this is showing on the left side, of course. Sahith Theegala was leading the tournament, I believe, by 2 shots or a shot going into 18. When he took out the driver, hit it into the trap on the left, it got up on the bank. Then, of course, he tried to get it out and did not. And then struggled a little bit from there, ended up taking a double bogey where he missed this putt, which looked like it was down for the bogey to at least possibly have a tie in a playoff, as we've seen a ton of times at the Travelers. But it went in, it went out, and it was another kind of heartfelt breaking moment that we've seen on tour. Of course, we had the Mito Pereira incident at the PGA off the 18th tee. We had Will Z multiple times, missing putts, the one that we just saw at the U.S. Open. Of course, you got the Farmers. We've had quite a bit of this. So amazing for Sahith. I was not on him. I felt like his game kind of, was a little bit trended down since, of course, the waste management where he drove the 17th green. It rolled off and then again lost that tournament. But then, of course, to the right, we had Xander who prevailed. And, of course, he also had a close shot of also losing the tournament. This is showing at number 12, where him and Patrick Cantlay, right, they drove it, it hit the car path, and that fence is the out-of-bound line. And you can see the ball resting here against this wire, which stopped it from going out of bounds, is what everything that we could see. And if that would have went out of bounds, it could have been a different story for him, too. And, of course, amazing enough, Patrick Cantlay, shot, I don't know if it was 5 over, but struggled for Patrick Cantlay quite mightily on Sunday. And there was other things that transpired. Of course, you had Michael Thorbjornsen. I'm probably going to butcher that, but of course, not too far. Grew up Massachusetts, and he played in the U.S. Open, did not make the cut. But then out of nowhere, just started tearing it up towards the end of his front nine. If I remember correctly, it was like 2 birdies, an eagle, another birdie. I even threw a live bet on him. And then, of course, once I did that, I think it was 12-1, away he went and started hitting it in the water and struggling. But still ended up, I believe, T4 or 4th alone or 3rd alone. Doesn't matter. It was an amazing showing for an amateur. It was exciting and almost a chance for him to win it. And then I wanted to show this real quick, as I always do, kind of like the top 10 guys, what they did from a stroke game, where they finished up. Now, the stars that you'll see here were my within my top 20 picks, so my top 15 plus the top 5 cheapies. And the best thing that I did, I tweeted this out, was from a pick standpoint, was picking JT Poston to do well here from a cheapie standpoint. I think he was, shows there 6,600. I don't remember what his initial price was. I didn't put a lot in from a DFS Classic for the 4-day tournament. I had 10 lineups in the large game. None. I think 1 cashed, of course, with the way my picks worked out. And Brian Harman. That was it. As I mentioned, I was not on Sahith. And then, the top guys, you had guys withdrawing. You had JT pulling out at the last minute. I had Rory in my picks. He came out 8 under. Looked like, possibly Rory could either contend. And then he kind of fell apart. I think it was on the same hole where he, on Friday, drove it out of bounds. And then it just all went sideways. I think he had a quad. I think he shot, a nice little 8 on that hole, if I remember correctly. Scott Stallings, who I believe had a good Thursday and a good Sunday, a really good Sunday. If you had him on Showdown Finale, which I did pretty well on. I put a few teams together. I had Chesson Hadley in there, who, went in Fuego on Sunday. I did not have Stallings, but I had, I believe, Poston and then somebody else. Kisner, I gave a nice mention to and said, hey, this would be a perfect course, but he was just playing so bad. But he shot well, and then, like I said, with JT Poston, I was just going on what I was seeing from recent form, even though his past history at that tournament was not good at all. There you go. There goes recent form versus, course history. Okay, I'm going to kind of move through, but if we look at what I was focused on, and, I don't know where you want to go, but I was looking for guys that were really good from a short game, around the green, and putting, which is so hard. And you can see that the putting definitely showed up again, which no shocker there. But a pro showed up a little more for the top guys. I mean, you can look at Kisner and Mitchell that, didn't do that great on approach. But off the tee, again, you didn't have to be great off the tee to win this thing, or at least be in the top five. Xander did gain 2.7, and Thigala gained 3.6. The other three guys lost off the tee against the field. So, again, I don't know if we're any further, clear. When I went through the past historical stroke gain from the past few years, it was kind of all over the map. Where last year you didn't, if I remember right, it was off the tee, the guys did well, and putting, and everything else didn't show up. And then if you went the other two previous years, it kind of switched. So, again, I don't know if it's any more, clarified for me. I'll put it that way. And then I want to pull this in. Of course, if you watch the DP World Tour, you had Haotong Li win in a playoff against Thomas Pieters. And I just bring this up because if you don't know who Haotong Li is, there's only a couple times that you would remember him. So I believe it was the 2020, and it might have been 2019. I get him confused off the top of my head. But he actually led the PGA Championship, I believe, after day two. Kind of came out of nowhere. And then he kind of fell back, ended up with a T17. That doesn't show here. I believe he did well in the match play, or at least one out of his pod, he made it out. That's about it. But if you wanted to see what was interesting was that, he was just in terrible form in 2021 and almost quit the game. And I think he said about 10 months ago, which is crazy. And then you kind of see, some decent. I mean, he had a miscut in May, but a 26th, a 37th, and 18th. I mean, nothing amazing. I think this T18 at one time at this Porsche European Open, I think he was leading the field again early on. But yeah, long story short, he wins the B&W International, which is a pretty strong tournament for the DP World Tour. And again, if you would have put money, Thomas Pieters, especially, going into Sunday, you would have thought he would have won that. So good for Haotong Li. Just a nice story, going from pretty much almost quitting the game to, winning. And that's his third win on the DP World Tour. So I bring this up because I think we will see him at the Barracuda. And then also, I think he's playing in the Scottish Open. I think right now, and again, I might mess this up, you've got the Irish Open, which a couple guys that we know, of course, Lowry and Seamus Power are in that field. I think they're the highest from or lowest odds, expected to win. It was those two guys and then everybody else. So, okay, I think that's enough on the recap side of what transpired this past weekend in golf. Let's go talk about the John Deere. Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about, usually I go right into the breakdown of the course, but I found this morning and just was like, wow, this field that was brutal to begin with just got a really, really bad. But there's some good things about that, and we're going to talk about it. But you had those six guys pull out this morning. The big one being Daniel Berger, who was the headliner, the biggest name playing in this tournament. He was pretty much it. It was like Daniel Berger and Hadwin were like the two guys that, have been, have a chance it would be the best in the field. And then he tweeted out that his back, which we know his back has been still causing some issues, and he wants to get, in 100% health going into, of course, the Open, and he'll probably play, I would guess, in the Irish Open. But you had Apri Barner at pull out. You had Kurt Kitayama, someone that we would have been like, yeah, let's play Kurt Kitayama. You had Sungwoo Bae. Davis Riley, which I'd probably put as the second or third best player in the field. He pulled out. And then JJ Spawn, which since he won the Valero, his game has been kind of falling back. And then you had guys now like Matt Avery. I mean, they are scraping the barrel. Like, I think some of these guys don't even have PGA status. Like, it's amazing when we go through this field. But with all that said, this is a tournament like what we see maybe on the vacation swing or in the beginning of the year, like in the fall, that you have a chance of hitting a really nice high odds guy. So the long shots are in play. Honestly, this field, you could make an argument that almost anyone in the field could win this tournament. So with that said, we're going to take a lot of swings at some long shots because it's been a while, right? We've had Scheffler win so much. The only long shot that has really happened within the last 3 or 4 months off the top of my head would be KH Lee going back-to-back at the Byron Nelson. So we've been, at least me, I've been whining that, even like the Travelers, we had a pretty stacked field for the Travelers. It kind of to unstack as, the tournament before it kicked off, but still is a really good field for the Travelers. So now we have that pure anybody can win tournament. All right, let's go talk about the course. All right, so these guys aren't going too far. They're heading over to Silvis, Illinois. Also, I heard it's supposed to be crazy hot there, so maybe that's a part of it. I mean, there's a lot of reasons you could say why the field is what it is. A lot of the guys are, played the Travelers because now they're going to head over to get ready for the Open. But anyways, they're playing a course called TPC Deere Run, which I've used a little bit here recently because it does fit from a, kind of a shorter course, par 71, and it's got the bent greens. So there's been some of those courses that we've been playing. It was the Wells Fargo, the PGA Championship. So on a comp course side, we have a lot of comp courses that we've been looking at. Just the only thing is a lot of these guys in this field didn't play those events. Even the Canadian Open would fit exactly what kind of this course is. The John Deere Classic's been hosted here since 2000. Of course, you had one of the winners off the top of my head that I think of. It would be Jordan Spieth, I believe, his first win ever on tour. And your architect is D.A. Weibring, which doesn't really matter. I already mentioned it is a par 71. Playing just over 7,200 yards at 7,289. You've got the bent grass fairways. You've got the bluegrass fescue mix, 4-inch rough. And of course, we have the bent grass greens that I just mentioned. This is a full player field at 156, cut down to T65 in ties. And again, I mentioned they are scraping the barrel to keep it at 156. Historical cut line is 1 under to 3 under if you look over the past few years. And the winning score has fallen somewhere over the past few years, somewhere between 18 under to 27 under. Now, of course, last year I hit Smell the Glove, Lucas Glover. I believe it was like 50 to 1, something like that. Like the field wasn't that strong here, and he had a pretty good showing at the Traveler. Started to put together where it was all about the putter with him. So hence, and also there's a little note here below we'll talk about. But yeah, so I hit Lucas Glover here. I hit Harris English, so I got a nice run. Of course, I did not bet on Xander Schauffele. I believe he was, 18 to 1, whatever he was. Nothing to super excite me. You had a COVID break in 2020, so they did not play. And then they had, in 2019, you had Dylan Fratelli, who won it in 2019. And what's amazing, he shot 21 under. I watched that tournament. I remember that tournament. And what stuck out was that he was throwing darts with the irons. And then funny enough, when I went and looked at his stroke gain analytics, which, that will come up here, we'll look at, he did not gain on approach. He just went nuts with the putter. But it's crazy. Maybe it was just the shots that I remember or they showed. I felt like everything he was hitting with the irons was just darts. And then you had Michael Kim, who's done absolutely nothing since he went just nuts and won 27 under at this course back in 2018. And you'll see his stats too. He broke the putting stats chart. So back to when Patrick Cantlay at the FedEx Cup, I believe he gained 14 strokes with the putter on bent grass. Michael Kim would be the second highest I've ever seen at 13 and a half strokes gained. The greens are, a little bit, I say average is 5,000 square feet. So we'll just call them average. You got 76 sand bunkers. They just redid all the sand bunkers here and actually took out 2 sand bunkers. Used to be 78 from last year. Nothing to be worried about. Just they did a whole renovation on all the sand bunkers. You've got 3 water hazards and 3 holes come into play. Now there's actually number 16, which they don't count, but you could see how you could get in water, and I'll show that. And then the stem meter I had from last year was running at 11 and a half. I'm guessing somewhere, 12, pretty fast on the bent greens. And then this is we'll go look at, and it could be a bit to what the field is typically here. But when you see the guys who've done well here in the past, typically it is the plotters, the strategic guys. You got to hit the fairways, good on irons. Of course, you got to do well putting. But it is tree lined. They have elevation change. You got some slopey greens. And then, like I said, what I think the note that I had in here was what, kind of put me also on Lucas Glover was on hole number 10 that he had an albatross, and then the next day he eagled it. So he just lit up number 10. So just kind of an interesting note. All right, not to really spend a whole lot of time, but here's hole 16. I believe that's a par 3. Yeah. And so you got this river that's running right next to it. So technically, if you put the super hook on it, which I have done at times, you could maybe find that water, but it's not considered a water hazard. But it just gives you a look at, it's a pretty tight track. You can see it looks like, water comes into play on 18. You got water coming into play on 10, which I believe is that par 5 I mentioned, the albatross and the eagle. And you got water comes into play on 2. And then you can see the sand This is an older map, so I don't know if every sand bunker on here shows, but really all I'm trying to state is that you got to be accurate off the tee, and you're gonna have to be good with good with the irons. And it's not about distance; it is about hitting fairways. Also, you got to be a pretty good scrambler. Hence, George Spieth went in here. You are going to probably get in some areas that you're going to have to get out of. All right, if we look at the scorecard, I did notice the first hole they did add some yardage compared to this. We'll go over that real quick, but kind of a gentle handshake right out of the bat. So there is a possibility for that birdie streak, consecutive. Now there's this par three. Of course, you got to make a birdie there, but at least right off the bat, it's about the only spot that looks like a good area, and then there's nothing off like the 9, 10, 11 kind of thing. But it's very typical. You've got your 6 birdie opportunities. You have your 6 bogey opportunities. Nothing out of the north. You got 3 par 5s here, all pretty gettable, especially for these guys. The par 3s, you got a 158. You got a couple par 3s that could be a little bit of the course defense, but nothing that I thought was, out of the ordinary. And then 11 par 4s that kind of vary. You got some longer ones, the 500, the 44, kind of the hardest holes on the course. And then you got the average Joe. You got one that's kind of drivable here, number 6 at 360. So be kind of interesting. But that does not show up as a birdie, eagle hole over the history. And then it's the official scorecard they just released this morning. And like I said, the only change that I saw was they added some yardage on number 1. So I guess moved the tees back and added 20 yards of distance. And that's what changed the distance from the yardage last year. All right, so we want to look at what the past winners have done here very well. Let's look at the past 3 years. Of course, there's my buddy Lucas Glover holding up the beautiful John Deere trophy. And what did he do well here? Wasn't so much he gained off the tee, but really in Fuego with the irons. And he's an amazing iron player. And the difference for him is the putting. If you watched any of what Lucas Glover did at the Travelers, he was just a disaster putting again. And of course, he went off all on his own on Sunday because I plugged him in on a couple teams thinking, hey, you got nothing, just go out and have an enjoyable round. He played it like 2.5 hours and, had a couple double bogeys. And, again, just the putter was horrific. Kevin Na, this would be a perfect Kevin Na course. He didn't do a whole lot here on the ball striking, but did it all around the green and just, gained a ton of strokes with the putter. Ryan Moore, funny enough, we'll touch base on this on the one and done stuff, but has done very well at this track. He also got Zach Johnson, who's won here in the past. And I know at least once. I feel like he's won more than that, probably a while ago, but he has a bunch of top 5s. Of course, his game is not where it used to be. Luke List, which I'm shocked that I didn't even notice that. I guess he's not in the field. I was going to say, be shocked if so now he's not in the field, Luke List. But like Scott Brown, Adam Shank, when I say Scott Brown, I meant that as he's a plotter, fits into that Ryan Moore camp. So that, again, another kind of, all these guys, except for Luke List, you could put as the plotter, strategic, kind of work your way around the course. The Shank, actually, we're going to talk about him from a betting side, but it's done here done well here the last couple of years. Munoz not in the field. You got Hammer and Hank, who had this run, this like summer run where I mentioned the Travelers and then the Deere, and then maybe it was a Rocket Mortgage, I don't remember. And then Brian Stewart, my guy out of Central Michigan, again, perfect, hit the fairways, hit the green, and hopefully your putter. You can see he went nuts with the putter here to get in that 8th, tied for 8. All right, there's Dylan Fratelli, as I mentioned. And what, again, was shocking was that he actually did not gain on the field on approach, but he just went nuts around the green and the putter. Russ Henley, if he was in the field, would be a great, just all irons and hope he could gain with the putter. Landry, last time, probably maybe the last time he showed up, it's been a while. Well, this is back 2019, so he's had something on that. But again, Chris Stroud, where we used to always get mixed up with Stewart and Stroud, and Morikawa played here then. We got Watney. CH3 is in the field. Vaughn Taylor, I'll talk about him from a betting perspective for this. And there's Shank showing up again at the bottom back in 2019. And then there's Michael Kim. I mentioned gaining 13.5 strokes with the putter. Just, like I said, it's ridiculous. Sam Ryder, who, for me is just a volatile guy where he can have one good round. He's actually not a terrible showdown play because he can make a ton of birdies. I've mentioned this before, but also can make a ton of bogeys. Joel Damon not in the field, Molinari. So again, if you look at these names and you know them, a lot of good plotters up there. You got John Huh, who is in the field. John who? Huh? Streelman, who, actually didn't have a bad showing at the Travelers like I was mentioning, like I was like, I don't understand why guys are so hot to play steel when, Kevin Streelman is so much cheaper. And he did decent if I remember right. But that, again, just shows you some of the past winners. Out of this, I want guys, I think ball striking, I'm going to lean towards, if I can, the best ball strikers. I'd probably go with irons over everything because it's so hard to predict who's going to go off with the putter. We'll look at that. But yeah, I guess if there's one thing, if I had to go with anything, it'd be who's the best iron player in this field. Then I would go with ball striking, which is off the tee and irons. And then, the rest. All right, so how do you win this John Deere Classic? This is kind of funny. This is back 2013. There's Jordan Spieth holding his 828 grand check back when they used to actually do the checks. I think that's awesome. I kind of miss that. So I already mentioned ball striking. I'm going to put it number one. Approach, good drives. Again, what is this? This is guys that hit the fairway or the first cut and then hit the green on their approach. Whenever we go to these strategic kind of plotter courses, that's what I plug in instead of off the tee because I'm not worried about distance. I'm all worried about, hitting the fairways and then hitting the greens on your second shot. Putting, of course, scrambling, I mentioned, around the greens, sand saves. The one proximity to the pin that really shows up is this 125 to 150, also 75 to 100, but I'm just going to plug in the one because the other one wasn't that crazy compared to other tournaments they play. Par fives, I want to see guys that can score on these par fives, 550 to 600, and then, of course, you're going to have to make birdies. And I'll really leverage that when I get into the picks, again, on how many guys actually make a lot of birdies in this field. So that's kind of what I'm going with, the big model. So with that said, this is what it pumped out. And this is looking over the past 12 rounds, no filters. I've got ball striking weighted at 15%, good drives at 15%, approach at 15, putting at 15, around the green at 5. You got scrambling at 5, that proximity for 125 to 150. And then the par fives, 550 to 600, and then birdies at 15. All right, with all that said, these are the guys that got chucked out. The one, I guess, that would show up from a good odds, 125. Lee Hodges right now, is doing a lot of these things good. And if I click to the next and give you 24 rounds of data, you'll see I have highlighted Davis Riley. As I mentioned, he has pulled out of this field. But the next guy that shows up would be Mr. JT, the postman, is right there. You got Lanto, Todd, John Hunt again. You got Lashley, Reevy, Cam Davis. Actually, you could get him at 50 to 1 earlier this morning. So what happened was if you got in before Berger and Riley pulled out, you actually got some better odds. And luckily I did. I just got up and started plugging away on some guys this morning. So some of this odds have changed. Some are still holding. David Lingermuth, who showed up at, oh my gosh, wasn't the Travelers, it was the U.S. Open, I guess, if I remember correctly. Steve Stricker, who is in the field and just almost won the Seniors U.S. Open, the Champions Tour U.S. Open. He came close. It was kind of crazy. You had the two Ryder Cup captains, Steve Stricker and Padre Herring, who won. I believe, I didn't see the very end, but Padre Herring was like 10 under. Stricker was at 9 under. So Stricker, of course, kind of a local, the area, played this thing a ton. Is going to be kind of a sneaky, I don't know if I'd bet him, but could be a sneaky DraftKings play. I don't know how many people is going to want to plug in Stricker. But then again, with this field, he's probably, I don't know, top 20 right now, especially the way he's been playing on the Seniors. So anyways, that gives you some recent form guys. And then if you want to know the guys who've done very well at this exact course at TPC Deere Run, pulling up the last 12 rounds they played here. Some guys you're going to see that have not played a full 12 rounds. Vaughn Taylor, funny enough, we're going to talk about him. He comes in number one. Ryan Moore, I mentioned him. There's Stricker. Of course, Lucas Glover, past winner. You got Adam Hadwin, who right now from a one and done, I plugged him in. It's pretty sad. I didn't have Berger, and I'm like, well, the next best guy that I can think of is Adam Hadwin. Yeah, Chris Stroud, Zach Johnson, Scotty Brown, Shank, CH3. You got Dougie Gim, great ball striker, terrible putter. Tyler Duncan, Cameron Percy, Kevin Chappell, Kazire, and Fratelli. I think Chappell could be interesting too. Someone that we might want to look at from a betting perspective who I've not bet yet. And if you want to know who is the best on the bent greens, coming up here, you got Denny McCarthy, which that's no shocker. You got Brendan Todd. So the two guys that are on last week, again, probably be on this week. Maybe I'm always said always a week early. And I tweeted this out also right in the beginning when Xander, went out and shot 63, 63. And I'm like, this is so typical that, I used him one and done for the US Open. I, was all over him from a DFS side. And then, of course, he was out and really didn't do anything of any note. Austin Cook's been kind of showing up here or there, at least from a DFS perspective if you want a cheaper play. Seabez, I was on last week. I mean, all the guys. So, you know what? I'm going to probably run my DFS lineups, whoever I can. You got Taylor Pendrith, who's coming off that injury. He tried to play at the RBC Canadian Open. Now, I'm kind of on a betting and a DFS side a little nervous about this, right? I mean, a guy who's not played competitive golf since, I don't even know, the winter time. I'm a little nervous to get too nutty about him. Of course, Davis Riley pulled out. Patrick Rogers could be interesting. Some you'll know. That's what I'll call him. Some you'll know. But some you will know. You got Johnson Wagner, Bo Van Pelt. Some of these guys you got to watch because the data is a bit old on them. My Blackbeard, we'll talk about him. You got Matt McNeely, Jason Day, and then Bill Haas. All right, we want to look at some of the best ball strikers in this field because I do when you think of Lucas Glover, he is a really good ball striker. He's just terrible putter. But so I might also look a little bit on that narrative. But the guys with these yellow stars, you got to watch, right? So JJ Spawn's pulled out. I already mentioned Taylor Pitter. Boo Weekly, this data is coming from like 2019. So I wouldn't hold that or Raleigh. So what I did is I pulled in a few extra guys for you. So CH3, technically, out of all these guys, would be number one from a ball striking lately. You got Sahith Theegala again, who is in the field. So from a betting side, no thank you. But, I'm sure from a DFS side. Austin Smotherman, I did bet him. A great ball striker. Could fit this narrative very well. Scott Stallings showing up. You got Dougie Gim, Paul Barjan, Ryan Armour, Rogers, JT Poston, Cam Davis, who made a little bit of a stir, I think, the first 2 days at the Travelers and then fell back. Webb Simpson, who I was like, who am I going to put on the cover? And I put him on there literally because when you put the cover sheet, right, I mean, you're trying to get people that recognize player, but I don't think too many people are going to be doing a whole lot with John Deere. So I just threw him on there. It could be a tournament that Webb, out of this terrible field, could win. Then you got Party Marty Laird, who was also a pick of mine last week, and I'll probably go right back to him. Okay, so I mentioned for the comp courses for the John Deere Classic, I'm going to pretty much run what I just ran last week. I see no issues. I actually plugged maybe a couple more in here I could talk about. But you got, of course, the Charles Schwab, the Colonial, Bit Greens, Par 70. It's a plotter's track. You got the Canadian Open that they just played at St. George's. The TPC Travelers, pretty similar. You got this Wells Fargo at Avondale Farms that we just saw. You got Harbortown at RBC. So that's pretty much the gist. I think I also plugged in maybe Wailea. I think TPC Southwind, a couple other kind of plotter tracks. Anyways, with all that said, looking at 24 rounds, this is who it spit out. I kind of laugh. I see Jason Day there. Of course, I picked him last week, and he was a disaster. And I said going in, every time I pick Jason Day, it never works. And I don't know what to do with him this week. I honestly just have no idea. So we'll have to figure that out tomorrow. But Hammer and Hank, who was one of my picks, I had that whole lefty narrative, which I don't know. Brian Harmon did okay. Hank made the cut. So I don't know. Higo did not make the cut. Yeah. So these are the guys that got spit out. You've got, again, Shank shows up again. McNeely, Svensson, who did pretty well, if I remember correctly, the Travelers. I know he at least made the cut, if I remember correctly. I was not on him that week. You had Gim, Seifert, Reevy, Hunt, Griffin, Webb, Armour. You got Wes Bryant, which I'll talk a little bit about. You got Ryan Moore, and you got Matt Wallace and Lucas Glover. So that's the guys from a comparable comp course side that come out well here. All right, with all that said, let's talk about the guys that I will be betting. And I will, again, preface that these are a little bit towards the long shot. But guess what? I think everybody in this tournament, honestly, even Adam Hadwin, like nobody in this tournament, I think, is like, oh, these far way better than the rest of this field. So with that said, let's take a look at some of the guys that I've already bet. Adam Schenk, 70-1. I think you can still get him there, and I would jump all over this. I mean, he's had a great course history here. He's a pretty good golfer, ball striking wise. It's a little bit what the putter does. So 70-1. I went heavy on this. I like Adam Schenk here we were waiting last year for him to get his first win. this could definitely be the tournament with this crap field. Emiliano Grillo, why not? That is Lucas Glover in a blue shirt. Like, it's perfect. He's actually been showing some form. If he does what he can do, ball striking, and actually make some putts, 80-1, I'm all over that. Now here comes my FOMO bets. Been waiting for these guys to win, so I'm like, there's no way I'm not going to bet them here. You got my Brokeback pick, always, Patty Kazire, even though the Travelers, I think he made the cut, but didn't do anything of note. He's 100-1. I've got to bet it because I've been looking at these guys all year and been waiting for their shot. This could be it. With that said, of course, you knew what was next. You got Blackbeard, Michael Thompson at 150-1 to win. Of course, Reddy won the 3M, Bet Greens, very tough track. He's got another win. Was it the Honda? I'm off the top of my head, I can't remember, but why not? You got Richard Wierenski, who's like 400-1, but he's been really bad, so I'm not throwing him in there. Then Vaughn Taylor, like I mentioned, has had a ton of success. This fits Vaughn Taylor to a T. He's 131 to win. So that's, I've got more bets than that. I told you I'm taking a ton of shots at the high odds guys. This is the tournament where it definitely should happen. So that's my kind of top 5 for you guys. And then I do have a long shot, not a super long shot, because as far as I'm concerned, almost everybody in this field is a long shot to win this thing. So let's go talk about who I'm looking at. All right, 200-1 to win, 12-1 to top 10. This guy, he's a solid ball striker and actually a pretty good putter. Off the tee, as you'll see, is where he struggles. He has won the RBC Heritage. He's had a 3rd at John Deere in the past, an 8th at John Deere. This is kind of older stuff. Sanderson Farm would be kind of more recent in this list. And who am I talking about? Of course, is the trick shot, Wesley Bryant. Of course, he came from him and the Bryan boys with all the YouTube videos way back. And I don't even know if that's kind of what got him maybe some exemptions or something. I don't know that. I don't know this total story, but I've watched him and his brother, of course, doing the trick shots. But out of this field, I like Wes Bryant to do something. I'll definitely play him in DFS, and I've already bet him at 200-1. Why not? Again, could be a shot. If the putter does what he can do, his irons are pretty good at times. It's off the tee that he struggles. So maybe he'll club down, just hit some more fairways, and we could have something there. So that's my long shot for you. And with that said, that is my show for you guys too. It was pretty quick. I'm not going to even lie. I almost thought about just combining, like the picks and the bets and everything, the preview all into one, but it's a little hard. I do want to give it the true due diligence on the pick side. If I would have just threw a bunch of picks together for you guys, at least doing a little deeper analysis to the best that I can do the analysis. So I am going to put some time in. I'm going to go through the picks. I'll put that out tomorrow for you guys. And then, of course, before the lock show. But, on one side, we could be like, not have a lot of interest in this tournament. But I'm telling you, I'm more interested in this tournament from a betting perspective. And if I can give you any advice, you don't make big bets. You make just tiny little bets all over some of these high odd guys, because it could be somebody out of nowhere that wins this thing that we are not even thinking of. So with all that said, click that like button, share it with anybody else, and if you are for some odd reason checking me out for the first time for the John Deere Classic, do me the honor of subscribing. I put out 3 shows a week, and hey, we hit this last year with Lucas Glover. Let's go hit this thing again, and I am pretty amped from the betting side. So follow me on Twitter, too, for any of the updates that you guys want to see about who withdraws and all the good stuff that comes from the PGA Tour or anything else that I see. All right, guys, I'll talk to you tomorrow when I put out the pick show, and have a great day.